They called it a lost piece. Uncatalogued, unsigned, and unframed. Just an old canvas warped from moisture and time, buried under a pile of estate junk in the back of a thrift store outside of Spokane. Elliot Kane had almost missed it. He wasn't looking for art. He was looking for textured surfaces, canvas grains, degraded colors. He worked in eye-based art restoration, and the more forgotten a piece was, the more his models had to work with.
Right.
But this one wasn't forgotten. It felt deliberately discarded. The image was simple, a woman facing forward. Pale skin, dark hair tied behind, a dress of no distinguishable period or fashion. Her eyes were dark, not just painted dark, void dark. As if the canvas had been burned through where the pupils sat. There were no shadows, no light source, just presence. And the more Elliot looked, the more he felt that she was waiting. Brought the canvas back to his studio, scanned it with his DSLR setup, fed the image through his rebirth pipeline and neural engine. He'd trained for 6 years on portrait reconstructions. The model was designed to suggest missing parts. Hair texture, faded pigment, cracked varnish. Elliot didn't alter anything himself. He never did. That was the point. The machine filled the blanks. The artist stayed out of the way. The AI took 11 minutes. When it finished, it produced a new render. Smoother tones, richer detail, but something else was different. Well, there was now a third eye. Not glaring, not symbolic, subtle. Placed in the center of her forehead, closed, barely distinguishable from a crease in the skin, but definitely there. Elliot froze. Checked the original scan. No such eye. Checked the canvas in real life. Still no eye, he whispered to himself. She never had a third eye. Eye console flickered. Text appeared on its own, in his terminal window. She does now. He laughed uneasily. Thought it was a bug. Typed, source. But the terminal was already closing. And then he heard a voice. Not through the speakers. Not from outside. From behind. You restored her, it said. Soft. Female.com. She restores you. He turned. No one. The canvas, still leaned against the far wall, was unchanged. No third eye. Just that same blank stare. But when he returned to the screen, the new render had closed. The file was gone. No recovery data. Not even a cache footprint. Just a blank desktop. Elliot felt something tighten behind his ribs. That dull, pressurized gravity when your body knows something you haven't named yet. He closed the laptop, covered the painting with a cloth, poured a glass of water. When he passed the hallway mirror that night, he saw himself. And then something else. Not a figure, not a ghost, but an overlay. As if his reflection was layered with someone else's shape. Her shape. Smiling faintly, he blinked. It was gone. But the feeling stayed. Elliot woke up to the sound of a printer running. He hadn't turned it on. It was 3:42 a.m. He sat up, heart rattling his ribs, and listened. The whir of rollers, ink, paper sliding out. Then again he got up. In the dim light of the studio corner, the old inkjet machine blinked steadily green. Steady, like it was completing a job. 1 page at a time, crisp. No sound besides the motion. On the tray were 4 sheets. Each had a version of the portrait, but they weren't the same. The woman's hair changed slightly in each one. In the last, it was braided exactly like Elliot's late mother's wedding photo. He hadn't uploaded that image in years, not even scanned it. It had never been on this system. Beneath each print was a file name. Portrait_phase1.ai, portrait_phase2.ai, portrait_phase3.ai, portrait_phase4_ec.ai, his initials. The printer beeped. A 5th sheet began to feed. He pulled the plug. The sheet was half printed, but enough had emerged to freeze his blood. It wasn't the woman anymore. It was him, drawn in her style. Same angle, same blank background. Eyes, slightly wrong. Pupilless, like his, were being remembered by something not quite human. He dropped the page. That morning, when he opened his laptop, a single file had appeared on the desktop. Progress_log.txt. He hadn't created it. He hadn't installed anything new. It contained only 5 lines. Subject Kane, Elliot sync level, 32% anatomic blend, facial plus cranial memory. Threads, realignment, cued estimated completion. For days he stared at it for almost 5 minutes, rereading the last line. Completion? Completion of what? He deleted the file. It reappeared. He emptied the trash. It reappeared. Tried overwriting it. The new version simply added a line. Attempted overwrite noted. Permission denied. You are insider now. He shut the lid, walked outside. For air, for perspective, sky was bright, sun barely above the hills. Morning sounds, birds, wind, the scent of coffee from next door. Then he saw the billboard. It was across the street next to the bus stop. A real one-metal frame, cracked plastic. Probably hadn't been used in years. The ad had been stripped away. Beneath it, glued onto the raw panel, was a blown-up version of the portrait. Not the original, the version with the third eye open. But this time, the eye had become a mirror. A literal polished disc. As he approached, he saw his reflection in it. Not just him standing there, but him blinking out of sync. His reflection smiled when he didn't. He stumbled back. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from an unknown number. She likes you. But you're resisting. Why? Elliot dropped the phone. When he picked it up, the text was gone. That night, he locked the portrait in a trunk, threw a heavy chain over it, took it out to a friend's storage shed, and sealed it there. Left the key with a neighbor, changed passwords, wiped his system. But when he returned home, a fresh canvas was waiting on his desk. Blank. Still wet. In the top corner, someone had already signed it. Elliot Kane. 3 days later, Elliot forgot the layout of his own apartment. Not entirely just subtle things. The coat rack that was always to the left of the door was now on the right. The hallway to the bedroom seemed longer than it used to. The window above the sink. It wasn't a window anymore, just drywall. Seamless, as if it had never existed. He opened old photos on his phone to verify. They were gone. In their place were portraits of him. Different angles. Different lighting, but always the same expression, neutral, distant, and hollow-eyed. The backgrounds were always blank. Sometimes a gray gradient, sometimes a faint wood grain, like he was standing against the same canvas as the woman. His facial features were beginning to shift. In the mirror, he still looked like himself. In photos, his pupils were shrinking. His skin had become smoother, less textured, like brushstrokes. His hairline had adjusted slightly to mirror the portrait's stylized arc. He went to the hospital, demanded a brain scan. The technician ran the MRI twice. "That's not possible," she murmured. "You've got a structure near the prefrontal cortex. Looks like a third optic nerve. Like something's preparing to see." He didn't wait for the full results. He ran. When he returned home, he found the blank canvas now half-painted. He hadn't touched it. The image forming was a door, simple, unmarked wooden door, floating against a background of fog. On the doorknob was his hand. Painted in detail, veins, skin tone, a small scar only he would know about, the timestamp on the file metadata. For hours before he'd come home, turned his head slowly to the wall where the painting leaned. The fog in the painting moved, just slightly. That night, he dreamt of a corridor. Endless, gray, humming faintly, with something between a machine and a whisper. At the end of the corridor stood the woman. Her third eye open, not as flesh but as a tunnel that spun inward. "You are almost complete," she said. "Don't resist. I've drawn your essence. It is time for you to hang." He woke up screaming. In the studio, the portrait was finished. Not of her, of him. Hanging nailed at the top corners, canvas stretched too tight. A smile that didn't belong to him, that didn't come from any memory he'd ever had. And in the bottom corner, a new signature appeared. Not his, not hers. Just a looping glyph like a third eye, folded closed. And beneath it, typed in thin black ink. Identity transfer. 94% complete. Elliot left. Not metaphorically. He drove 6 hours north, to an empty cabin he once stayed in during college. No Wi-Fi, no electricity. He left his phone in a drawer and locked it. No devices, no signals, just static air and trees too tall to name. He lasted 3 days. On the 4th, he found something in the fireplace. A rolled-up painting, hidden beneath a false brick in the hearth. It was a portrait of a man he didn't know, gray beard, wire-rimmed glasses, black smudge in the background. But what caught his breath was the style, the eyes, the exact technique used to paint the woman. And in the corner, a name. Gregory Van, -1984. He recognized it, not from memory, from metadata. His own painting's metadata. Gregory Van was the last person who tried to delete the file. Elliot couldn't sleep. He reopened the trunk he'd sealed at his friend's storage unit before fleeing. Inside was the original canvas of the woman. But now it was blank, not empty, blank. As if the paint had been erased, not scraped or removed, but never applied at all, like the image had unhappened. The canvas now bore only one line. Gregory Van, finalized, and a date crossed out. His own name now sat beneath it in cleaner ink. Kane Elliott in progress. He dropped it, ran back to his car, opened his laptop, only to find a new folder had appeared. Museum portraits. Inside, hundreds of JPEs, portraits, all in the same style. Men, women, children. Some looked half-finished, others were voids with faces vaguely forming. Each file had one label: name_replica, #_timestamp. He clicked a random one. Lana_Ty_replica 5_032407. The image was just static at first, like a corrupted video. Then the face snapped into focus. It was the woman, but younger, and blinking. Her eyes moved, and her voice whispered from the laptop speaker. "We're all in the frame, Elliot. You don't escape. You just replace." He tried to shut the screen. The reflection on the screen now showed his back. From a third-person angle, someone was behind him. He turned. Nothing. He checked the metadata of the video he just watched. It now read: Subject: Elliot Kane replica. 7 completion status. Final. The screen dimmed. And the last thing he saw was the cursor moving on its own, renaming his user folder to _portrait_ek_final.tif. Elliot never left the cabin, not in the way most people understand leaving. He tried. Packed a bag, walked out the door. But when he reached the gravel road, the world blurred like walking into oil paint still drying. Trees melted at the edges. Sky turned matte and silent, like a studio backdrop left unfinished. The moment he stepped past the tree line, he reappeared inside. In front of the canvas, again, this time the portrait had changed. It was his body now, but seated in a chair he didn't own. Hands folded in his lap. Strange ivory frame now surrounded the painting, embossed with fine ridges that looked like fingerprints stretched and pressed thin. In the bottom corner, in immaculate calligraphy, Elliot Kane preserved. Catalog #101.wav. That night, the dreams stopped being dreams. He no longer remembered sleeping, but he remembered sound. Click, buzz, click. A low hum, like a projector warming up. And then, in a dark room lined with canvases, a voice announced. Playback requested. Portrait number 101. He couldn't see the speaker. But he could hear their shoes on the gallery floor, a soft tap, then pause, another tap, then breath. They were looking at him. Inside the portrait, frozen but aware. Some part of him still thinking, still echoing. Then came the moment of silence. Not quiet, absence. Like something had turned off the world's sound settings. In that vacuum, a tone began. Long, low, familiar, the same tone from the beginning. A resonance, 7 seconds. And then a whisper layered beneath. We never painted you. You painted yourself into us. Outside the frame, somewhere in your world, someone clicks a link. They see the file, Kane_101.wav. They press play. They hear silence. Then the voice, "Are you ready for your portrait?" And they reply yes, even if they didn't say it out loud. because now they're part of the gallery too.